So, Tega, shall we look at some of the WhatsApp we're looking at inside the locker room this morning? The Tigers crash out of the pre-Olympic qualifiers. Morphees upset Nori in Cincinnati as Jabor is true. And then we also reach out to Australia to use home support to fuel and energize against England, as well as officials to miss weekend games after penalty error. So says this one. We'll look at it also. There's some Guardiola hits out at schedule as De Bruyne faces 4 months out. Then sleeping the Giants, Spain awakening at the Women's World Cup. Then Neymar quits PSG, flies straight to Saudi Arabia, Al-Hilal. And then Mancini says Saudi Arabia, nothing to do with his Italy exit.
Really? Roberto, this thing is money now. There's no need to hide the secret. Okay, so he suddenly resigns from Italy. Um, the Italian FA wants him. People are not angry with him. He suddenly resigns from Italy. Then we hear that they are going to be paying him 25 mila if he takes over the Saudi national team, and he's saying that that's not why he's leaving. So the owl cried at night and the baby is dead in the morning, and we said it's not witchcraft, my friend. We're going to talk about that story and how Saudi is taking everybody away. But let's start with what happened at Eco Hotel, because it was bloody yesterday.
And that's the Tigers crash out, and why Tega's gender so proud and maybe seemingly pompous for a good reason right now. But then out of the pre-Olympic qualifiers, it was sad to end Nigeria's pre-Olympic qualifiers after the Tigers lost their second consecutive game to Mali at Eco Convention Center, Lagos on Tuesday.
All right. So remember, they lost on Monday. Monday when I was begging all of you to go.
Yeah, I remember.
And some people took, their family members and they went there to watch. That's how much of an outing it was, how much of a festival it was, and it was great, because now you have a venue that it's top notch. And so people wanted to go because the venue, of course, was great. There were other things to see around, and then there was a little bit of a hype around it. And then the players come in, they had the media day. So on social media, you could you could see some of the players speaking like, these guys are ready. And especially what the Tigresses have done in Rwanda. So if people were hopeful, now everybody seemed to forget that, the MBBF is in a horrible place. The federation hasn't made enough preparation for these guys. In fact, some players were dropping out, and it was some other player. I think I heard that Chimeze Metu was begging players that please, can you just come to camp and let's just play. Let's just try and go to
national pride.
Can you imagine at this point in time what was happening? So there was a lot of chaos, just the same way there was chaos with the women's team, but there was also chaos with the men's team. Everybody arrived at the convention center, and then Senegal beat us. Heartache. And these were winnable games, and I think that's where part of the problem is. So yes, the coaches, you can also blame the coaching too, because most of the time Nigerian team lost down the stretch. So maybe in the fourth quarter they'd be outplayed completely. So you're wondering where the fuel in the tank is, because they seem to run out of ideas. They're not passing the ball enough, and defensively they were found wanting. That was Monday. And we thought, okay, since that was Monday, there's going to be a lot of coaching. You're going to watch your video, see where you went wrong, and do better. Tuesday, it started out well against Mali. Got an early lead first quarter, extended that lead in second quarter. Third quarter was a bit of both sides going 50-50 head to head. But fourth quarter was the one that everybody just put their hand on their head. 7 points in the entire quarter. Entire 12 minutes, 7 points. And when you take your stops, you expect that, the coach will draw his X and O's on the board and they'll come back better. No. It's like everything they did bad in the fourth quarter, they did it worse. And so it was so it's not just that they lost, it was the manner in which they lost. Having led in the game, having dominated the game, having played well in the game, and then getting to the fourth quarter and was like Nepa took light.
Okay.
So
moral of this story for me is women tend to, because all of the same prevailing situations that the Tigers went through, they are also going through it. But then the Tigers excelled in their own case. So my own takeaway is women thrive better and manage crises better.
Yes, end of discussion. Give us president. All right. And so it's crazy, but yes, the Tigers are not going to the Olympics for the first time in
That's
a
so
while.
sad.
It is sad. And so of course there are people coming on social media about the MBBF, and some people were like, wait, even if the MBBF is bad, let's talk about the players on court. So I think everybody, is to blame. The
Yeah.
players, the MBBF, the coach, the system, every single thing. But what it means is that the Tigers are not going. Please, if the women qualify, can we go to this one at least? Because we qualified for World Cup last time, it didn't let us go. So if we qualify,
Oh, this one,
let's just go.
yes.
All right, let's go to. We're still thinking world athletics. No news yet on Toby Amuso, but as soon as that news comes out, trust me, I'll be the first. When you see me doing cartwheels in the locker room,
Yeah.
you know that she's been cleared.
Is that a promise? There will be a cat. You would give us cartwheels.
We will attempt.
Okay. Noted. That's enough one promise for us to get into this Cincinnati story. Moorfields upset Noria in Cincinnati as Jabra is true. And inspired Gail Murphy's applied the finishing touches to a British exodus at the Cincinnati Open on Tuesday with a 3-6, 6-4, 6-3 defeat of 13th seed Cameron Norrie.
All right. So the resurgence in Gail Monfils is crazy. So ever since his wife came back, he's married to Elena Svitolina. Yeah, plays
the Ukrainian.
Yes. So after she had her baby, she had a crazy run of form. I don't know what was running through her veins, but she just came back like she better than she ever left.
Motherhood, from the records, from what I've seen, it seems motherhood brings a
back
vibe.
something. Like she came back with a cape. She came back with a cape, and she was going further into tournaments. She was injured in Cincinnati, but Gail Monfils just seemed to get his own second wind. And he came into this tournament and he's been taking out not just any players, but big name players. Cameron Norrie was the next one to go. Now, what made it bad for Cameron Norrie is that a lot of Brits were going and dropping on the day. Sir Andy Murray dropped out of Cincinnati because of injury that he picked up.
I see what you did there with this sir. Even though you respectfully want to disrespect him with this sir.
No, we have to call him what he. I respect Andy Murray every day of the week and twice on Sunday. so Sir Andy Murray picked up an injury, so he withdrew from Cincinnati. And then Danny Evans was beaten yesterday, and Cameron Norrie was beaten again. So it was just like, what's happening to all the Brits? Just go home. So tough one, but Gail Monfils is really impressive to see him. I know that he's going to retire soon, which is why he's probably doing this last minute tour. But yeah, it's good to see him get a run further down into the tournament. On the women's side, though, Onojiafe didn't have it easy. Yesterday was so tough against Kalinina. It came down to the last set, and it went all the way into a tie break. It was in that tie break that she kind of she set a distinction between herself and Kalinina, because she started off the tie break very well, and then Kalinina had nothing to catch up with. So good one to Onojiafe. Not very convincing so far, but it was good to see her fight through her bad moments, and hopefully it will get better from here. But so far so good. Cincinnati, you know that at the end of the day, everybody just looking at US Open, which is at the end of this month. So, but Cincinnati Masters gives you an indication of how well you are or what form you are in to go into the Grand Slam.
My only problem or grounds with Morpheus is the fact that decide if you want to play tennis or you want to play fancy tennis. I just hope he keeps the form, all the entertainment and all the razzmatazz it brings into it.
Tennis is at the end of the day, tennis is entertainment. Tennis is tennis. He brings everything into it. He can't remove that, and he better not.
The showmanship play tennis when he just play well, and
tennis is showmanship. Why do you think we love Roger Federer and we can't stand Novak Djokovic? Novak Djokovic took out the soul from tennis and plays tennis down to its perfect science, which is why it is very effective, but it's very ugly to watch. Very ugly to watch. Yeah. So he makes records in the sport, but he doesn't do much for the sport with that tennis. Unlike Roger Federer, when he goes, the crowd follows, the money comes in, and you know how it is. So tennis is showmanship, and if you want to jump. If you want to fly. At the end of the day, just play tennis and earn your money and go home as a athlete. And for the fans, entertain us.
Okay. Would that be good enough for us to go in for 2 minutes? Would be just good for us to get this next story?
Yes, let's do that.
So Australia to use home support as fuel and energy against England. Australia coach Tony Gustafsson says self-belief and massive fan support could make the difference between them as they meet England for a place in the Women's World Cup final today.
All right, so Australia faced England at 11 o'clock this morning. If you watched Spain yesterday, we'll talk about that eventually, but that was wild. But this makes it a little interesting because now Sam Kerr, we're hearing, is fully fit, and she's been pretty much anonymous throughout the World Cup. Coming in from Chelsea in the form she came in with, scored 29 goals, won 2 titles for Chelsea. People thought that this World Cup is going to be Samantha's Kerr's time to seal the deal on Ballon d'Or. Then we heard she picked up an injury, and that has been the struggle with injuries. But we're hearing that she's in full form now, and she's going to come up against an England side who will still be missing the services of Lauren James, but has still found a way to be effective. Not pretty, but effective. So it's going to be interesting to see how this happens for Sam Kerr, because if you think about the form and fitness of Brazil, that plays for Australia and foul out Australia, you now put Samantha Kerr there. Mary Epps, you are going to save today. It has to be, because they're going to prepare that goal. That
is nuclear.
So Millie Bright, Mary Epps, they have to be in top form today because Australia is going to move. And one thing, they have great players on ground, then they have the crowd, the massive crowd, so you can rest assured that the stadium will be filled to the brim and it will be loud, and they'll have that pushing them on. So it's going to be a tough one. Now the thing about home is that it can bring pressure on you, but it can also be a motivating factor. Hopefully to be a motivating factor for the Australians, and they'll be able to do the business. Barring that, on paper, some people are saying England will come out of this and Australia will be knocked out. But this World Cup has thrown up a lot of surprises. So I'm open to another surprise.
Looks like a fine place to say that you can be part of the conversation on 0809 444 0981. WhatsApp messages only after this timeout.
Yeah. So when we come back, we'll come back with this message. And then we go into Premier League. When we come back, we'll come back with messages.
Time.
And when we come back, go to. Hey, this one that Alex wore, Nigerian jersey. Alex, yo! I think I've converted Alex to a football fan.
He doesn't watch football?
No, before he wasn't.
Okay.
He wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, he knew one or two people, but
Okay.
With this World Cup, I have harassed him
a lot. So
he's now a football fan. I mean, I'll be in my house and they say, "Tega, are you watching? See what?" I'm like, huh? Alex.
He found his vibe once again for football.
Speed, innovation, convenience, lifestyle goals, or just
bless God. I've redeemed one too.
Yeah, we thought you might like all of that and more. That is why we specially created Providence Bank for you.
I was so sleepy.
Daily experiences.
No, you're not. But you're gonna sleep. I don't even understand how you do it, but I just know that.
No, I'm really sleepy. So I slept maybe 2 hours last night.
Yeah.
Because I slept most of it.
You slept most of yesterday.
Tega! So when I got up this morning, I really didn't want to get up. I think it was when water hit my face that I really.
You felt you haven't done enough damage to the sleep and you still wanted to continue. Whoa.
So when I now came downstairs, did you see how I was sleeping downstairs? I arranged everything and I just passed out. I think I'm going to sleep for an hour before I hit the gym. Just 1 hour. Because I'm so tired. Hey, then I didn't talk about Lionel Messi again. Hey, my guy. Hey,
it's the breakfast club on your radio.
We're still in the locker room on Smooth 98.1 FM. It's a Wednesday, the 16th of August, and Tega is still here. Tega, Let's get into the message we left before.
Yeah, so Tayo says NBBF handicap didn't affect the Tigers, but it has at last manifested in the Tigers. Welcome to reality. And he said it's like some Nigerians haven't forgotten.
Too soon, James is stomping up on Alozie. That's why they're supporting the Matildas so they can collect small fuel from Nigerian fans too.
That would be nice. All right, so let's go into the next story.
Now, officials to miss weekend games after penalty error. So, three Premier League officials at the center of a decision not to award a penalty to Wolves at Manchester United have been overlooked for this weekend's match.
Oh, please. So they do this thing where they now suspend the referee for 1 weekend, maybe to take off the heat from them or make it look like they're actually punishing. But what happens to Wolverhampton Wanderers? We're not guaranteed that they could have scored the penalty, but who will give them their 1 point? How does this suspension of these officials give them their 1 point? I think it's ridiculous. So first of all, I've said it before, the only people that do not understand VAR is England. And it's shocking because the laws of the game and the laws of VAR are written in English. So, maybe that's the problem because people look at the video. See, it's a video assisted referee, so it's supposed to assist the referee. But England, in their opinion, they interpret it as is somehow overruling the referee, that they don't want the video assistant referee to be how did they put it, to be refereeing the referee. No, it's an assistant. It's supposed to help you.
You're a human. So you might miss something. So go back and look at it.
Why is your ego coming into this? So so the video assistant referee now looks at semantics. And yes, what was the ridiculous reason I heard for them not giving the penalty? But first of all, let's start with the scenario. Manchester United is leading by a goal. Wolverhampton Wanderers have been peppering the Manchester goal. There have been some runs by Konya. There have been a few moments where they'd seen the goalkeeper's teeth, but they just hadn't been able to put the ball in the back of the net. Yeah. And then they get this opportunity, which I'm not sure they could have scored from, but it was an opportunity nonetheless. And the goalkeeper Onana, the Manchester United goalkeeper Onana, comes out and completely pollacks. He wiped him out, took out a Wolves player that was trying to attack the ball. Everybody and their dog knew it was a penalty. The referee on the field did not give it. VAR did not even call the referee to say, do you want to have a second look at that? And it turns out at the end of the day, Manchester United win the match by that one goal. Now, had they given the penalty, maybe Wolves would have scored from it and it ended a draw. We don't know. We'll never know. But they should have given the decision. Now, the Gary O'Neill, the coach of Wolverhampton Wanderers, of course, was crazy on the sidelines. They gave him a yellow card for overacting, only for the referees association to later call the referee and say, "You're right. You should have had a penalty. We are sorry." As if an apology is going to give them 1 point. Now, I heard a lot of people trying to make excuses for the VAR, and that the referee, the video assistant referee thought that the referee saw that the referee was looking in that direction and he didn't have anybody in his view, so that since he didn't call it, they couldn't call it. First of all, the fact that I'm looking in a direction doesn't mean I'm seeing what is there. What if I'm thinking about how somebody's going, as I stand before you now, I'm looking at the camera, but I'm thinking of who will help me do my wheel balancing and alignment in my car as I'm here right now. So there's no guarantee that I can see everything. So how do you know that the referee was looking at that direction, but he was not thinking about his rent? Do you know what is going on in his mind? How can you say what he saw? Which is why you are an assistant. So you're supposed to help the referee. You say, okay, guy, I think you saw that, but you saw that in real time. Can I show you what I see? That's what you're supposed to do. So stop giving me all this nonsense excuses and just tell me that you guys are incompetent again. Another season, same incompetence. That will take that. But all the excuses I was hearing, oh, it was not a howler. Oh, it was, I'm just like, who are all these people? And I like the way one of the pundits was saying it, Dimitar Berbatov. He was like, no, there's no way. There's no excuse you can give me right now. So it's ridiculous. The officials are suspended, but Wolverhampton Wanderers are going to suffer. Now, I know it's a long season. These decisions come and go. Manchester United will still be their own major decision in front. that will still get points from there, because that's what happens when the season is a marathon season. It kind of goes around. So this will happen to Manchester United, but we must talk about it every time it happens, whether it happens to them or in their favor.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about it, but it was a ridiculous decision. But Manchester United now get points on the board despite the questionable performance, and now they know that their problem was not David De Gea. Their problem is that they can't score goals. They need help scoring goals.
So what are they
That
spending?
is the
What
problem.
did they spend their time doing?
So the person that they were looking at as the devil was really not the devil.
Okay.
All right, so let's take the next.
So the next story here comes. Guardiola hits out that schedule as De Bruyne faces 4 months out. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola said a brutal schedule was not allowing players to rest mentally or physically after revealing Kevin De Bruyne could miss the rest of the year with hamstring injury.
All right, so that was tough. You saw him in the first match he played, and then he sat on the floor and he was like, "I'm out." I was just very hopeful that it was not a knee injury, but his hamstring is taking him out for 4 months, so that's pretty much a long period. But these injuries are coming thick and fast, and it really happened in the past 2 years, and I've been saying it. You know, UEFA Nations League, the glorified friendly that people are calling trophy so that their goal to have something to brag about. Then and of course then the UEFA make extra money. Then there was the World Cup at the time that the World Cup came. It made matches a little tighter. You have to think about it. If you're playing in England, you're playing FA Cup, you're playing League Cup, and because everybody's trying to win something at the end of the year, before people used to use academy players for some of these stages. Now they just use their main team because there's too much competition in it, and there's so much money spent, so much competition, and that's what's happening. So it's crazy. Players are picking up injuries. Timber just came into the Premier League for Arsenal. He tore his ACL first match. They just, can you imagine? Thierry Rebecca, you bought a new car. You bought a new car. You drove it out of the factory. Engine knock. That's just crazy. So there was another knee injury that was Tyrone Mings with his own ligaments. I'm just like, so many players are getting injured and they're going to be out for the minimum of 8 months. Kevin De Bruyne is 4 months. That's if you're an Arsenal fan, you'd be like, that's good news. That's just 4 months. But so it's crazy. The schedule is really tough on these players, and he's saying this right before Manchester United is supposed to compete against Sevilla tonight in the Super Cup. So they played Community Shield against Arsenal. They played on Friday against Burnley. And now they play on Wednesday against Sevilla in the Super Cup. And they want to win that, so he's going to field a strong team. And then they will come back and play over the weekend in the Premier League.
It's really appreciated.
It's really, so these players do need a break. And so when you start talking about Super League, who is going to play the Super League? Because these players are already overworked. Are we going to manufacture players? What are we going to do? It's like printing new money.
Wear and tear was definitely coming into play.
So it's crazy.
That takes us to Sleeping Giants Spain awakened by Women's World Cup on Tuesday by La Roca, shrugging off the record of underachievement with a rousing 2-1 win over Sweden to reach the Women's World Cup.
I would say that people held the women of Spain to high standards because the men of Spain were doing madness. But you have to recognize that this is only the 3rd time Spanish women have qualified for the World Cup, and the first time they qualified was 2015. So they did 2015. Knocked out in the group stage because women's football was just really starting in Spain. I remember my Spanish friends to say, "Oh, that there's facilities, just that the women, they don't really want to play football." I'm like, no, you people have not really put much into it. But they started developing women's football, putting a lot into it. Sometimes they let the women play in the men's team just to get the stadium filled and get eyes on it. So women's football in Spain is growing massively. And you can tell, I mean, Barcelona has been dominating in the UCL in recent time and even won the UEFA Champions League recently. So women's football have been great. So they qualified in 2015, we were knocked out in the group stage. 2019, they were knocked out in the round of 16, and then 2023, they're in the final. That if there's anything that could say, just show us your picture of growth, just take the women's national team of Spain, and that's the picture of growth. It sees their chance. I would say this: Sweden has been here before, but they haven't just been able to crack the semi-final hoodoo. And so they looked a more solid team in the sense that they're pragmatic. They are strong, they're physical, they also have a few skillful players, and they get their goals. But the Spanish team, with their alleged naivety, with the initial fights with player and the coach, and then the federation, it was crazy to see that they put all that aside, got on the pitch, and listened to the same coach that most of them didn't want to play for. And they got the business done. Now, you have to say a bulk of that team comes from the club side Barcelona, so there's already a core of the team that know each other year in, year out. But still, they had to beat the team ahead of them, and they had to be mentally strong. If you saw the way they came at Sweden, you would not believe that they are the ones that were visiting that position, that semi-final for the first time. They were confident, they were bold, and when they had the opportunities, they took it. So brilliant players for Spain. Aitana Bonmati, several times she's been nominated for Ballon d'Or, she's not won it. What's her name? Hermoso, also a brilliant player. She can play as a false nine, she can play as a 10. Fantastic player. Alexia Putellas won the Ballon d'Or several times, but had picked up an ACL that took her out for almost a year. She was just recovering from the injury, but she also featured on the team, playing brilliantly. But the player that made the difference, Salma Paralelo, came up from the bench against the Dutch, scored the winner in extra time, came up from the bench against the Swedes yesterday and scored the first goal before the Swedes equalized, and then they scored another goal again. Brilliant team by Spain. So congratulations to them. They are in the final.
Tega, your messages are waiting, honestly.
All right. So we can't take a lot of the stories, but let's head up with all the messages. Let's start with Emeka.
Emeka from Amu says we are already in the first week of EPL football and we're already talking about poor referee officiating. I always say the problem isn't the VAR technology, the problem is the people operating the technology. Gradually, they are making the EPL unattractive and ruining the game.
Don't worry, Saudi will bring money.
Hashtag locker room, by the way, Lee Mason is back for the PTGMOL. Check the news.
Whoa.
And next it goes this
Read one says, I'm a Man United fan. That was a penalty. This VAR decision will go round. VAR give it, VAR take it away. Why did we sign Mason Mount? You and Arsenal fans should sit down and discuss Mason Mount.
Spain is successful because Barcelona women are thriving. Inspiration is wild. That's some Salma backstory is truly inspiring from switching career path.
Yeah, she used to run 400 meters on track and field. She wasn't bad, but that was a good switch.
Then, final message comes in from someone here says, "Hi guys, I'm impressed with the Spanish female from Spanish national team. They have a way of breaking opposition defense. I think they will beat whoever wins today's semi-final and win the World Cup for the very first time."
I'll be very happy if they do that. And on that note, we have to round up. We'll take your messages and more on Friday. Thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. Thank you so much for sending us messages on WhatsApp. Thank you for listening to the locker room. When we come back on Friday, hopefully there'll be banter.
All right.
For now,
let's say thank you so much to Tega, and she'll be back here. Stay well. It's Smooth 98.1 FM at 9 with Lagos Talks.